Chapter 1: The Awakening. The first thing Celine tasted when she woke was salt on her tongue and iron in her throat. She did not open her eyes at once. She had learned long ago, in the black trenches where light was only rumor, that opening your eyes too soon could cost you the last clear thought you had left. So she lay still and listened. Water pressed against her skin from every direction, thick and warm, the way blood feels when it fills a mouth. It should have crushed her. 10,000 meters down, the weight of an ocean should have turned her bones to powder and her lungs to paste. Yet she breathed. Slow, steady pulls of air that tasted of storms and something darker, something alive. Only then did she open her eyes. She was inside a palace made of night. Walls of black coral rose around her in impossible arches, veined with slow pulses of cold blue light. Schools of silver fish drifted like fallen stars between the columns. Far above, the ceiling was lost in absolute darkness, yet the water itself glowed faintly, as though the abyss had swallowed a moon and kept its shine. Chains of woven kelp bound her wrists to a slab of polished abalone. They were soft, almost gentle, but when she flexed her arms they did not give. She was naked except for the thin research skinsuit she had worn aboard the Aran Veil, now torn at the shoulder and clinging to her like a second, ruined skin. A shadow moved beyond the nearest arch. He stepped into the faint light and the water itself seemed to draw breath. Riven. Even among the Lyran he was legend. The warlord of the Black Current, the one who had drowned 3 fleets before breakfast and sung an entire reef to sleep so he could walk its spine unchallenged. Exiled now, they said. Cursed. Dying. He was taller than any human man had a right to be, shoulders broad enough to block the glow behind him. Skin the color of deep water at midnight, shifting with faint iridescence whenever he moved. Long black hair floated weightless around his face, framing cheekbones sharp as broken shells. His eyes were the pale, piercing gray of a storm seen from beneath the wave. And he was bleeding. A thin ribbon of crimson spiraled from a wound high on his ribs, curling through the water like ink. It should have dissipated at once, but the ocean around him refused to take it. The blood hung suspended, bright and accusing. Celine's pulse hammered in her ears. She had seen Lyran before, grainy footage from drone cams, corpses washed up on floating docks, but never like this. Never alive and close enough to touch. Riven stopped 3 body lengths away. The water between them thickened, as though it, too, feared coming closer. "You are awake," he said. His voice moved through the water and into her bones the way bass moves through a hull. No bubbles left his lips. The words simply arrived inside her skull, low and inevitable. She tried to answer and discovered her throat was raw. The last thing she remembered was the Aran Veil imploding around her, alarms screaming. Her crewmates' faces lit red as the pressure alarms hit critical. Then the glass of the observation dome had shattered and the sea had rushed in to claim them all. She had been certain she was dead. "Where are my people?" she managed. The words came out hoarse, but they came. Riven's eyes narrowed a fraction. "There are no others." The simplicity of it struck her harder than any scream could have. 8 souls aboard the sub. 8 friends. Gone. Grief and fury rose in her chest like twin tides. She jerked against the kelp restraints. They held. "You murdered them." "I did not." His tone never shifted, still that same low thunder. The black current did. It is hungry lately. It takes what it wants. And you brought me here. She bared her teeth. Why? For a long moment he only looked at her. The bleeding wound at his side pulsed once, brighter, and the water around them dimmed as though the palace itself flinched. Because you were the first human in 9 centuries who did not die the instant the pressure kissed your skin. He said, and because I am running out of time. He stepped closer. The chains of kelp loosened of their own accord, sliding from her wrists like obedient snakes. Selene scrambled upright on the slab, every muscle coiled to fight or flee. Neither seemed possible. The water resisted sudden movement, cradling her the way a mother cradles a child she intends to drown. Riven raised one hand. Long fingers, webbed faintly between with translucent membrane, nails black and curved like obsidian. He did not touch her, but the air, no, the water, between them shimmered. I will not harm you, Selene Marrow. She hated the way her name sounded in his mouth, like he had been tasting it for years. You know who I am. I know everything the ocean knows. A pause. It has been watching you for a very long time. A shiver moved through her that had nothing to do with cold. He turned, presenting the long, sculpted line of his back. From the base of his spine, the skin gave way to a powerful tail that flickered once, twice, propelling him in a slow circle around her slab. Scales the color of spilled oil caught the bioluminescence and threw it back in shards of violet and teal. I am dying, he said, voice softer now, almost conversational. The curse that was laid upon me 1,000 years ago has finally begun to win. My blood poisons the water. The water poisons me. Soon the black current itself will rot, and when it does, every reef, every trench, every floating city your kind clings to will follow. He faced her again. The bleeding had slowed, but the ribbon of red still drifted between them like a living thing. There is one way to break the curse, he continued. One ritual older than my people or yours. It requires a human woman who can survive the abyss unaided. She must give me 7 consecutive nights beneath the crushing deep. 7 nights of breath shared mouth to mouth. 7 nights of blood willingly mingled. 7 nights of heartbeat laid against heartbeat until the curse believes she is the ocean itself and releases me. Selene laughed. The sound came out cracked and furious. You want me to let you drag me to the bottom of the world and keep me there for a week while you, what, drink from me? Breathe from me? You said yourself every human who ever tried went mad or drowned. Every human who was forced. He corrected. The ritual demands willingness. Freely given, or it fails. And you think I'm going to volunteer? She spread her arms, gesturing at the drowned palace, the chains, the blood in the water. After you kidnapped me and let my crew die? I think, he said, voice dropping to something dangerously gentle, that you are a scientist. You have spent your life trying to save this ocean. I am offering you the chance to succeed. He drifted closer until only an arm's length separated them. Close enough that she could see the faint scars crossing his chest like constellations. Close enough that she could smell him, storm and salt and something electric. Refuse me, he said, and I will return you to the surface unharmed. You may mourn your dead and warn your people that the abyss is waking. In a year, perhaps less, the black current will rise and swallow every reef city. Billions will drown. The Lyran will die with them. Everything ends. He tilted his head, studying her the way a predator studies prey that has suddenly spoken. Or accept, he whispered, and for 7 nights you will hold the life of an entire world between your teeth. Celine's heart slammed against her ribs so hard she felt it in her throat. She wanted to spit in his face. She wanted to scream until her lungs gave out. Instead, she found herself staring at the slow spiral of his blood and wondering why the water refused to dilute it. How long? She heard herself ask. Until the next time you can surface? For the first time, something flickered across his perfect, inhuman features. Surprise, perhaps. Or hunger. 3 days, he said. On the night of the new moon, the curse loosens its grip for 7 hours. I can walk the air again. After that, he spread his hands, a gesture both elegant and helpless. The deep claims me until the next cycle. 3 days. 72 hours to decide if she would condemn a planet or chain herself to a monster. Riven watched her, unblinking. The water around him darkened further, as though the palace itself leaned in to listen. I will not ask again, he said quietly. The choice must be yours alone, freely made. But know this, Celine Marrow. Once you speak the words of acceptance, there is no breaking the bargain. 7 nights. No more. No less. And on the 7th, the ocean will decide what you become. He turned to leave. The tail flicked once, sending a slow swirl of current across her skin like a caress she did not ask for. At the archway, he paused without looking back. Your quarters are prepared. Food will be brought. You may roam the palace as you wish. The water will not harm you while you are under my protection. When you have decided, speak my name. I will hear. Then he was gone, vanishing into the black corridors like smoke dissolving into night. Celine floated alone in the vast hall, surrounded by the slow heartbeat of an alien sea. Somewhere far above, the surface world went on without her. 8 graves drifted in the dark water, waiting for someone to mourn them properly. And somewhere deeper still, a dying warlord bled into the current and waited for her answer. She pressed both hands over her heart, feeling it hammer against her palms, and realized with a sick lurch that it was no longer beating only for her. The ocean had already begun to listen. The palace did not feel like stone. It felt like a lung. Every corridor breathed. The black coral walls expanded and contracted in slow, tidal rhythms, exhaling faint clouds of luminescent plankton that drifted like snow made of starlight. The floor beneath Celine's bare feet was warm, almost feverish, and when she pressed her palm to it she felt a pulse, deep, ancient, wounded. She walked because standing still felt like drowning in place. The kelp chains had not returned. No guards followed her. The palace simply opened as she moved, arches blooming apart like petals, revealing halls upon halls of impossible beauty. One chamber was nothing but mirrors of polished obsidian that reflected her 1,000 times over, each image lagging a heartbeat behind the last so that she walked through a lagging chorus of herself. Another was a garden of sea fans taller than trees, their fronds unfurling in slow motion to reveal nests of glowing pearls the size of human hearts. She found food eventually, laid out on a low table of whalebone. Translucent fillets of something that tasted like lightning and melon, globes of fruit that burst with cold, sweet water when she bit them, and a single silver cup filled with a liquid that shimmered between gold and black. She drank it without thinking. It tasted of storms and regret. Hours passed, or perhaps days. There was no sunrise here, no nightfall. Only the slow heartbeat of the palace and the distant, mournful songs of things that had never seen the sun. She discovered a library. It was not a room. It was a wound in the world. The walls had been torn open and filled with water that refused to mix with the rest of the sea. Inside that impossible bubble floated thousands of books, human books, their pages preserved by some miracle of Lyran craft. She recognized some. The structure of coral symbiosis, abyssal currents and climate, her own doctoral thesis bound in pale leather. Someone had been collecting her life. On the central pedestal rested a single volume bound in black scales. It opened at her touch. The pages were blank. Then words bled onto them, written in her own handwriting, though she had never seen them before. He is lying about the curse. He is lying about the choice. He is lying about everything except the way he looks at you when he thinks you are not watching. Selene slammed the book shut. The scales cut her palm. Blood welled, bright and human, and the water drank it greedily. She fled. She ran until the corridors narrowed and the bioluminescence dimmed to a sullen red. Here the palace felt older, half ruined. Broken statues of Lyran warriors lined the walls, their faces eroded to screaming mouths. The water tasted metallic. She realized she was crying only when the tears refused to rise. The ocean took them before they left her eyes. She found the throne room by accident. It was not grand. It was a grave. A single seat of black stone rose from the center of a circular pit. The water here was colder, heavier, as though the pressure of 10 kilometers had been distilled into one place. Around the throne coiled the black current itself, visible now, a living serpent of darkness that moved against the brighter water like oil against glass. It circled the throne endlessly, never touching it, never leaving. Riven sat there. He was asleep, or as close to it as his kind ever came. His head rested against one fist, hair drifting like ink. The wound at his side had opened again. Blood poured steadily now, feeding the current in slow, deliberate pulses. Every time his blood touched the darkness, the serpent grew thicker, stronger. Selene's breath caught. He looked small. Not the monster who had spoken of billions drowning. Not the warlord who had drowned fleets. Just a man. No, not a man. Something ancient and exhausted, bleeding out into the dark because there was nowhere else to bleed. The current noticed her. It uncoiled from the throne and slid toward her, tasting the water where her cut palm still leaked red. The temperature plummeted. She felt her heartbeat slow, dragged down by the weight of centuries. Riven's eyes snapped open. The current recoiled as though burned. "Leave her," he commanded. His voice cracked like a whip through the water. The serpent hissed, a sound that scraped along her bones, and retreated to coil sulkily around the throne again. He rose in one fluid motion, blood trailing behind him like a bridal train. "You should not be here." "I got lost," she lied. "This place is not on any path. You were drawn." His gaze dropped to her bleeding hand. Something feral flickered across his face. "You are hurt." "It's nothing." "It is everything." He crossed the distance between them faster than the water should have allowed. His hand closed around her wrist, not gentle, not cruel, simply inevitable. He lifted her palm to his mouth. Selene jerked back. Don't. Too late. His tongue traced the cut, once, slow and deliberate. Fire and ice exploded up her arm. She gasped, knees buckling. The wound sealed instantly, skin knitting together beneath the warmth of his mouth, but the sensation lingered, pooling low in her belly like molten honey. He released her as suddenly as he had taken her, stepping back until the throne stood between them again. "Forgive me," he said, voice rough. "Old habits. You drank my blood. A taste. No more." His eyes were darker now, pupils blown wide until only a thin ring of storm gray remained. "It will not happen again unless you will it." She rubbed her healed palm against her thigh, trying to erase the memory of his tongue. "It didn't work. You said I could roam freely." "Not here." He gestured at the current. "This is where I come to die a little more each day. It is not safe for living things." Selene looked at the serpent of darkness, at the blood feeding it, at the exhaustion carved into every line of his body. "How long?" she asked quietly. "Until I am too weak to keep the current contained?" "Months. Perhaps less." He smiled, and it was the saddest thing she had ever seen. The ocean always collects its debts. She should have left then. Should have turned and walked away and spent the next 3 days hating him from a safe distance. Instead, she heard herself ask, "What happens if I say yes?" The question hung between them like a blade. Riven went very still. For a moment the only movement was the slow drift of his hair and the endless circling of the current. Then on the night of the new moon, he said at last, "I will take you deeper than any human has ever gone and lived. For 7 nights you will breathe only when I give you breath. You will bleed only when I allow it. Your heart will learn the rhythm of mine until the curse cannot tell where I end and you begin. On the 7th morning, if we both survive, the ocean will release me." "And me?" His gaze met hers, unflinching. "That is the part the stories leave out." Silence stretched, thick as deep water. Selene felt the palace heartbeat quicken, as though the entire abyss leaned in to hear her answer. She opened her mouth. A scream tore through the water, high, keening, inhuman. Riven spun, tail lashing. The current surged upward, forming a living shield between them and the archway. Figures poured into the throne room. Lyran, but wrong. Their skin was mottled gray and white, barnacles crusting their joints. Their eyes were milky, blind with deep madness. Jagged shells had been driven through their fins like armor. They moved in eerie unison, mouths open in that same endless scream. "Revenants," Riven snarled. "The current's dead. It should not be able to wake them." The first one reached him. He met it with bare hands, ripping its head from its shoulders in a burst of black blood. But there were more. Dozens. They ignored him now, streaming past toward Selene. She backed away until the throne pressed cold against her spine. There was nowhere to run. Riven fought like a storm-given flesh, tearing through them with claws and teeth and raw, impossible strength. But they kept coming, and every one that fell rose again, wounds knitting with threads of darkness. One of the revenants broke through. It was female once, beautiful in the way shattered things are beautiful. Half her face had been eaten away by deep rot. She reached for Selene with fingers webbed in shadow. Riven roared. He abandoned the others and launched himself across the pit, slamming into the revenant hard enough to drive it into the far wall. Coral shattered. Black blood clouded the water. He pinned the creature by the throat, muscles straining. "You will not touch her." The revenant smiled with too many teeth. When it spoke, its voice was layered, as though 1,000 drowned souls spoke at once. "She is already ours, Oathbreaker. The current has tasted her blood. The bargain is begun." Riven's head snapped toward Selene. Their eyes met across the chaos. The revenant laughed and drove a shard of shell through Riven's side, just below the ribs. He did not even flinch. Instead, he looked at Selene, only at her, and spoke a single word that burned itself into her mind like a brand. "Run." Then the current exploded. Darkness swallowed the throne room. The revenants screamed as one and were dragged down into the pit, limbs flailing. The water turned to ice around Selene's heart. When the darkness cleared, the pit was empty. Riven was gone. Only the throne remained, cracked down the middle, and a single drop of his blood drifting upward like a ruby star. Selene stood alone in the sudden silence, her healed palm burning where he had tasted her. Somewhere in the depths, something ancient woke fully and turned its attention toward the surface. And far above, on a night with no moon, the first storm in 1,000 years began to gather.